The assessment that failed my dad. They called me natural family support. I called it wrong. They said 10 hours was enough for my paralyzed dad, and it wasn't. When my dad was approved for Medicaid long-term care, a case manager from Sunshine Health came out to do an assessment. My dad is paralyzed. He is bedridden. He has a catheter. He cannot feed himself, bathe himself, or reposition himself in bed. He cannot do anything independently. Based on whatever that case manager wrote in her assessment, my dad was approved for only 10 hours of home care per week. 10 hours for a man who needs care around the clock. I'm working from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. 5 days a week. I cannot physically be there to fill in any gaps on any workday. When I called to question how 10 hours was possibly enough, the case manager told me that because I was family, living in the same home, I was considered natural family support, meaning Sunshine Health expected me to provide care for free. I want every family watching this to hear me clearly. If your parent or loved one's approved hours feel wrong, they probably are. You have the right to fight back and request more hours as you should. Follow for part 2, because that is exactly what I did. This is based entirely on my personal experience in Florida. Requirements may vary by state. Always consult with your local Medicaid office or an elder law attorney for guidance specific to your situation. I filed 2 appeals and a Medicaid Fair Hearing. Here's what happened. They gave us 6 more hours. I said, that's still not enough. After my dad was only approved for 10 hours of home care, I filed an appeal with Sunshine Health. That appeal was denied, so I filed a second appeal. This time, they approved 6 additional hours. My dad went from 10 hours to 16 hours a week. Let me put that in perspective. My dad is paralyzed. He is bedridden. He has a catheter. He cannot feed himself or reposition himself in bed. Without someone there to monitor his catheter urine backs up, what happens is his body starts to shut down. That actually happened a couple of times. My dad was hospitalized because his catheter became obstructed and no caregiver was present. That hospitalization was preventable. 16 hours was still not enough, so I did something most families don't know they can do. I requested a Medicaid Fair Hearing. That is a formal hearing before a judge with state Medicaid present, where you argue that your parent's level of care is not being met. At the same time, I contacted my dad's doctor and asked them to evaluate him and sign a medical necessity statement. That letter documented that my dad is paraplegic and bedbound, that he cannot reposition himself, that he is at high risk for pressure ulcers, urinary retention, infection, and emergency hospitalization without adequate supervision. The letter stated clearly that my dad required a minimum of 40 hours per week to be safely maintained at home. I submitted that letter as part of my fair hearing documentation. Follow for part 3, because what happened next proved that fighting back works. This is based entirely on my personal experience in Florida. Requirements may vary by state. Always consult with your local Medicaid office or an elder law attorney for guidance specific to your situation. The doctor's letter and the win. One letter changed everything. Sunshine Health backed down. 1 week before the hearing, Sunshine Health called me. Here's what they said. My Medicaid Fair Hearing date and time was set. Sunshine Health was notified. State Medicaid was notified. A judge was assigned. I had my documentation ready, including the medical necessity letter signed by my dad's doctor stating he needed a minimum of 40 hours per week to be safely maintained at home. 1 week before that hearing, Sunshine Health called me and told me they were approving an additional 33 hours of home care per week for my dad. They stated that I can call and cancel the fair hearing, or I can continue to have the hearing. I felt there was no reason to have the hearing since they gave Dad more hours as needed. I need you to understand why they called. They did not want to sit in front of a judge and explain why they were denying adequate care to a paralyzed, bedridden man whose own doctor had documented in writing that he needed more hours to stay alive and out of the hospital. They did not want that on record. My dad went from 10 hours a week to 49 hours a week. A caregiver comes to my home twice a day, 7 days a week. They prepare his food, clean him, reposition him with pillows, monitor and empty his catheter, brush his teeth, wash his face, and make sure he is safe and comfortable. I also enrolled him in Meals on Wheels, which delivers food Monday through Friday completely free. Here is what I need every family watching this to take away. The system is designed to approve the minimum and hope you accept it. File the appeal. File the second appeal. Get your parents' doctor to write a medical necessity letter. Request the fair hearing. They will back down. You do not have to be an attorney to advocate for your parent. You just have to be willing to not give up. Follow, because I am going to keep breaking down every step of this process so you know exactly what to do for your family. This is based entirely on my personal experience in Florida with Sunshine Health. Requirements may vary by state and managed care plan. Always consult with a Medicaid advocate or elder law attorney for guidance specific to your situation.